Military people, have you ever slept with someone foreign while stationed overseas, and if so, what's the story there? I was in Greece for a port call and met this girl at a bar music event. Got liquored up and she takes me back to her place and we do our thing. I had overnight liberty so I didn't have to be back for 2 days for duty section, so I stayed. Woke up the next morning and went to slide out and her entire damn family was sitting around the table eating breakfast. It was a no-duck moment. I didn't know until then that they are one big happy family living together. It was clear what happened with her and I, so I thought her father and her one brother might want to have a word with me. Nope, they all invited me to sit down and fixed me a cretin pie or whatever they called it, and I chatted with them for a bit. At first it was weird and I thought they were going to try to stab me, but they were wonderful people. Family is considered quite important in our culture. My great-grandfather was a Polish air pilot during WW2. Ended up crashing and going to an English hospital. Met my great-grandmother, a Scottish nurse. Got married and started a family. It's often forgotten how many Poles served with the Brits, especially in the RAF. So cheers to him. Meanwhile, the kids' accents had to be unique if nothing else. When I was single, all the married guys used me as an excuse to go to clubs. About 3 months into my second tour in Germany, me and a friend went clubbing. A young lady celebrating her birthday noticed me. Told her friend. Her friend lied to me and said she wanted to talk to me. We talked. That was April 1998. We are still together. 3 kids and a cat. Birthday girl. Or the friend? Literally 99% of the military does when stationed in Korea. My son is stationed in Japan. This is the one thing we don't talk about. Don't ask, don't tell. I should have married her. But I was young and very stupid. And immature. But it's all good. 17 years later. After a lot of bad relationships. I hit pay dirt. But occasionally. Late at night. I admit I wonder what might have been. Late at night. I admit I wonder what might have been. What is this like? I'm currently kinda dealing with the one that got away situation. And I'm wondering if I'll still be ruminating on it in the future. I never got with a foreigner while overseas, though if you count Hawaii as being overseas. I met my girlfriend who's from Hawaii while stationed at Hickam. We did get a warning about hooking up with foreign women and cheating on your significant other while in basic training though. One of the drill instructors told us a story about a guy who was married with kids and was on an unaccompanied tour in Korea. Unaccompanied means his family wasn't with him. While in Korea he managed to get a Korean girlfriend and even got engaged to her, without telling her he had a family back in the States. When it was time for him to leave Korea, he just up and left without even so much of a word to his Korean mistress. So this Korean woman discovered where this guy and his family lived in Texas. And flew there with her sister. Rented a car. And drove to his house and raised holy hell on his front yard in front of him and his whole family. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Good for the Korean lady. I'm female and got out of the military a few years ago. I honestly regret that I never did. I met a guy on Tinder in Germany once and thought for sure it was going down. He came over to my apartment. I was ready. Turned out he was Albanian and very religious. And he really was only interested in Netflix and chilling. After that I met the guy who is still my so to this day. So I never did get the chance. Best story ever. You wanna Netflix and chill? Him, sure. You tries to kiss him. What are you doing? My grandfather had an illegitimate child that the family only knew about post-death. He hid that his whole life. My grandmother only found out when the child, now adult, reached out to the family from the UK. I guess he was messing WWII around and impregnated a woman. Knew about it and left the country to avoid being a parent. I feel sorry for the kid who grew up not knowing their father. But I really feel sorry for your grandmother. Assuming they were together during WWII, of course. What a dreadful blow. Even after all that time. I'm not military. But I'm from a small South American country that Western military used to visit back in the day around 30 years ago. From the stories my mum told me, the guys would regularly show up in bars looking for local women to hook up with. Some of the women did end having children for the men. Which is one of the reasons why there's white looking people in our country. A majority of our population is either black or Asian. And the rest are mixed. A few of the men did fall in love with the local women and took them back to their Western home countries. I'm not sure if my mum ever hooked up with any of the military men. But I'm pretty sure my gran did back in her day because most of her kids look half white. How are the mixed children looked upon? I know after the Vietnam War they were kind of at the very bottom of society. Went out partying. Girls wanted to party with and tag along. Usually you'll get a few glances from girls and there's a big confidence boost when you consider that you'll likely never see that person again, so just shoot your shot and odds are good you'll land one. Girls often go out looking for foreign men for both non-committal and long-term relationships. Also being underway. The main outlet for stress is working out. So you get a bunch of fit young dudes showing up with wads of cash looking to party and a desire to nut, so it's win-win for both parties. British and Kyiv. I second that. Second generation military here. My father went as part of a relief mission near the equator, vague to save my identity. And he wound up with a girlfriend while still married to my mother. He wound up being sent home early and never got a medal for going. I'm pretty sure this was because of the girlfriend. This whole issue was one of many reasons my parents divorced. Username checks out. Sorry dude. I was in Dubai when I was in the Navy around 2005. A buddy and myself met two women from the UK. They were vacationing and we all ended up at the Hard Rock there. At the end of the night I was behind the bushes on one side of the entrance going to town on one chick, and my buddy was behind the bushes on the other side with the other. So we got to duck under the giant guitar while all our other's friends kept a lookout just in case. That's why friends made in the military last a lifetime. Or sometimes. I love to joke about this with my dad, who was in the Navy for 20 years. I just know I have Cuban half siblings, but he insists otherwise. I always joke with my dad about my Korean brother. He was stationed there during the Korean War and has several photos of him and the same Korean lady. My parents were not married during that time, BTW. Not my story exactly, but my dad was stationed in Germany around 1985 and got into a relationship with an English woman. He gets sent back to America and later meets my mom. My mom overhears my dad cheat talking with some military friends about this English woman and crazy lies, but didn't really think it was true. Flash forward to 2018 and turns out that my dad in fact got that English woman pregnant and just left her after he got orders to go back to America. She goes to his commander to try and stop this, or something to this effect, I'm not too sure. He tells his commander that it's all bullshit. She's a crazy itch, please don't make him stay. So he goes and this woman raises his kid without anyone ever finding out. The child of this relationship finally found my dad in 2018 and well, now I have an English half brother. Even more weird, my dad has another daughter from wife number 2 who he insisted had to be called Alex, and this English child is a son also named Alex. My family and I believe he fully knew about this kid and per usual just didn't give enough sheets to take responsibility. I know someone that deployed to Okinawa in the 80s. He was my friend's father, and my friend at 15 years old found out that the father had cheated on his wife and had a half sibling. Well, that half sibling came looking for the father when we were both in high school. Lots of drama ensued. What kind of drama ensued? Young American men. In good shape. In another country. Find me one that hasn't slept with a local. You'd be surprised how many service members aren't in good shape at all. I wouldn't be here if my grandfather didn't do this in Korea. My grandfather was stationed in Germany during the Vietnam War. Don't ask why, cause I'm not sure, and he told me he would often deliver mail to houses in the countryside. He told me that he would visit one home so commonly that he ended acquainting with one of the housewives while her husband was away at work. Well, one thing led to another and my grandpa ended up breaking up a German family. The funniest part of it all was that when he finished telling the story he added, "And that was the first time I contracted gonorrhea." LMAO. Sounds like your grandpa's had more than his fair share of fun. LMAO. Almost all military people while stationed overseas did this. You are right about that. I did several times. And I'm not even particularly good looking, nor am I good with women. Who else are they going to sleep with while overseas than foreigners? The story is the same as it is in the USA. You get yourself down to the pub, club, bar. Get a few drinks in you and have a go at chatting someone up. Exactly the way it works all over the world. I spent a week in Germany on my way back from Iraq and ended up getting drunk and having sex with a female soldier in a WWII cemetery. Oops. Not military. But kinda have a relevant story. When I was backpacking through continental Europe, 2013/14. I was partying at a hostel in Rome. I wasn't staying there myself. But they offered beer pong in the basement, which was a small club. A guy comes over and we start playing. We start talking and I find out he's a Marine. On leave from work in a US military near enough Rome he could hop the train in. Anyways, I think he's a cool dude. And always interested people who've seen out of the world and how it compares to home. Anyways. Eventually we played so long we are both hammered and he comes out and says, "Hey. Throwing it out there. But I'm gay and I think you're hot. Would you like to come back to my room?" I probably wasn't ready for this. But I like to think I handled it well. Saying sorry for any confusion. But I'm straight. Thank you for compliment. He understood and I asked him about what's that like. Being in the military and being gay. He hadn't came out to anyone he knew or worked with. Which to me sounded awful. Living with such a secret. So I said, "Hey. If you want to dance. I'd be cool with that." And so we danced together. Then afterward. He said thanks and I asked him how often he's able to hook up with guys. And he shows me his Grindr. Dude had like 10 messages on the go with guys in Rome that day alone. Admittedly. He didn't hook up with anyone that night. But I was like, damn. This guy gets matches. I wish my Tinder was this busy. Anyways. He got no more free dances from me that night. But I did have a great time chatting him up. I was backpacking through Western Europe. I met her in Hawaii and she is a Pacific Islander from Saipan. I slept with her literally the first date thinking it was going to be a one-night stand. Got married 6 months later and have been with her since 2014. I don't know how we make it work, but we do and I love her more than anything. No kids, but I have 5 cats. One of these days I'll convince her to let me get a dog. My grandfather was Air Force and met my grandmother while stationed in the UK. Now my family spans 3 continents. 80s in Germany. I'm from the US. Was pretty fluent in German. Having started learning it in middle school. And continuing through college. Met a girl from Saarland. At the time. English wasn't compulsory in her school. She opted for French. So she spoke no English at all. We were totally in love. And as my tour there drew to a close. We entertained thoughts of marriage. But I couldn't see bringing her to the US. Compelling her to relearn her nursing studies in English. While I spent so much time in the field. That goodbye was among the most painful experiences of my life. If I had been thinking. I would have extended my tour there. Married her. And I'd be a German right now. And I could watch the shit show that the US has become from afar. Makes me wonder if my grandpa, who spent many years between Korean War, Vietnam War, and Secret War in Laos, had slept with women throughout Asia and impregnated one or more women, and I got cousins in Asia that I don't even know about. There's always been talk in my family about grandpa's Korean wife. We used to laugh and joke about how we probably have cousins in Asia. But anytime someone asked grandpa about it, grandma would get this deadly look in her eyes and he wouldn't say a peep. They've passed on now. So the questions is still kinda hanging there. I had my DNA done a few years back, so I hold out hope that any lost relatives around the world might someday message me. my military dad slutted it up wherever he went. Years ago my dad got a call from an Australian woman, we are in US, and told him she thinks he may be her father. We were all in our 30s at the time, but it was kind of exciting to think we may have another sister. My dad went to get the paternity test done, but it turned out he wasn't her father. He was actually sad about it and expressed how sorry he was and that he hopes she finds who she's looking for. I hope she did too. He mentioned he wouldn't be surprised if we have a bunch of siblings around the world.